Hey everybody, we're going to do the September 19th daily Bible reading. We're going to start out in Isaiah chapter 29, verse 1. Woe to Ariel, the city where David dwelt. Add year to year, let feast come around. Yet I will distress Ariel. There shall be heaviness and sorrow, and it shall be to me as Ariel. I will encamp against you all around. I will lay siege against you with a mound, and I will raise siege works against you. You shall be brought down. You shall speak out of the ground. Your speech shall be low out of the dust. Your voice shall be like a medium's out of the ground, and your speech shall whisper out of the dust. Moreover, the multitude of your foes shall be like fine dust, and the multitude of the terrible ones like chaff that passes away. Yes, it shall be in an instant, suddenly. You will be punished by the Lord of hosts with thunder and earthquake and great noise, with storm and tempest and the flame of devouring fire. The multitude of all the nations who fight against Ariel, even all who fight against her and her fortress and distress her, shall be as a dream of a night vision. It shall even be as when a hungry man dreams, and look, he eats, but he awakes, and his soul is still empty. Or as when a thirsty man dreams, and look, he drinks, but he awakes, and indeed he is faint, and his soul still craves. For the multitude of all the nations shall be who fight against Mount Zion. Pause and wonder. Blind yourselves and be blind. They are drunk, but not with wine. They stagger, but not with intoxicating drink. For the Lord has poured out on you the spirit of deep sleep, and has closed your eyes, namely the prophets, and he has covered your heads, namely the seers. Spirit of deep sleep. Because Israel refused to hear her true prophets initially, their ability to hear has been impaired. God gave them up judicially to their own hardness of heart. Paul applied this verse specifically to the general condition of Israel's blindness during the age of the church. Prophets, seers, false prophets and seers have blinded their listeners with their false prophecies. Verse 11, the whole vision has become to you like the words of a book that is sealed, which men deliver to one who is literate, saying, read this, please. And he says, I cannot, for it is sealed. Then the book is delivered to one who is illiterate, saying, read this, please. And he says, I am not literate. Therefore the Lord said, inasmuch as these people draw near with their mouths and honor me with their lips, but have removed their hearts far from me, and their fear toward me is taught by the commandment of men. Therefore, behold, I will again do a marvelous work among this people, a marvelous work and a wonder. For the wisdom of their wise men shall perish, and the understanding of their prudent men shall be hidden. Hearts far from me. Empty ritualism does not bring closeness to God. Jesus used this verse to describe the Judaism of his day. Verse 15, woe to those who seek deep to hide their counsel far from the Lord, and their works are in the dark. They say, who sees us and who knows us? Surely you have things turned around. Shall the potter be esteemed as the clay? For shall the thing made say of him who made it, he did not make me? Or shall the thing formed say of him who formed it, he has no understanding? Is it not yet a very little while till Lebanon shall be turned into a fruitful field, and the fruitful field be esteemed as a forest? In that day the deaf shall hear the words of the book, and the eyes of the blind shall see out of obscurity and out of darkness. The humble also shall increase their joy in the Lord, and the poor among men shall rejoice in the Holy One of Israel. For the terrible one is brought to nothing, the scornful one is consumed, and all who watch for iniquity are cut off, who make a man an offender by a word, and lay a snare for him who reproves in the gate, and turn aside the just by empty words. Therefore thus says the Lord, who redeemed Abraham concerning the house of Jacob, Jacob shall not now be ashamed, nor shall his face now grow pale. But when he sees his children, the work of my hands, in his midst, they will hallow my name, and hallow the Holy One of Jacob, and fear the God of Israel. There also who erred in spirit will come to understanding, and those who complained will learn doctrine. Redeemed Abraham. God delivered Abraham from his pagan background when he brought him from beyond the Euphrates River into the land of Canaan. Paul elaborates on this theme in Romans 4, 1 through 22. Not now be ashamed. Israel, in her history, had frequently suffered disgrace, but the personal presence of the Messiah is to change that. After the salvation of Israel in the end time, the children of Jacob will no longer cause their forefathers to blush over their wickedness. Psalm 108, verses 1 through 6. It's a song, a psalm of David. O God, my heart is steadfast. I will sing and give praise, even with my glory. Awake, lute and harp. I will awaken the dawn. I will praise you, O Lord, among the peoples, and I will sing praises to you among the nations. For your mercy is great above the heavens, and your truth reaches to the clouds. Be exalted, O God, above the heavens, and your glory above all the earth, that your beloved may be delivered. Save with your right hand and hear me. Proverbs 25, verses 21 and 22. If your enemy is hungry, give him bread to eat, and if he is thirsty, give him water to drink. For so you will heap coals of fire on his head, and the Lord will reward you. As metals are melted by placing fiery coals on them, so is the heart of an enemy softened by such kindness. Contrast the coals of judgment in Psalm 140:10. Paul quotes this proverb in Romans 12, verse 20. 2 Corinthians chapter 11, verses 1 through 15. Oh, that you would bear with me in a little folly, and indeed you do bear with me, for I am jealous for you with godly jealousy, for I have betrothed you to one husband, that I may present you as a chaste virgin to Christ. But I fear lest somehow, as the serpent deceived Eve by his craftiness, so your minds may be corrupted from the simplicity that is in Christ. For if he who comes preaches another Jesus whom we have not preached, or if you receive a different spirit which you have not received, or a different gospel which you have not accepted, you may well put up with it. For I consider that I am not at all inferior to the most eminent apostles. Even though I am untrained in speech, yet I am not in knowledge. But we have been thoroughly manifested among you in all things. Did I commit sin in humbling myself that you might be exalted, because I preached the gospel of God to you free of charge? I robbed other churches, taking wages from them to minister to you. And when I was present with you and in need, I was a burden to no one. For what I lacked, the brethren who came from Macedonia supplied. And in everything I kept myself from being burdensome to you. And so I will keep myself. As the truth of Christ is in me, no one shall stop me from this boasting in the regions of Achaia. Why? Because I do not love you? God knows. But what I do, I will also continue to do, that I may cut off the opportunity from those who desire an opportunity to be regarded just as we are in the things of which they boast. For such are false apostles, deceitful workers, transforming themselves into apostles of Christ. And no wonder, for Satan himself transforms himself into an angel of light. Therefore it is no great thing if his ministers also transform themselves into ministers of righteousness, whose end will be according to their works. Free of charge. Greek culture measured the importance of a teacher by the fee he could command. The false apostles therefore accused Paul of being a counterfeit, since he refused to charge for his services. They convinced the Corinthians to be offended by Paul's refusal to accept support from them, offering that as evidence that he did not love them. Paul's resort to manual labor to support himself also embarrassed the Corinthians, who felt such work to be beneath the dignity of an apostle. With biting irony, Paul asked his accusers how foregoing his right to support could possibly be a sin. In fact, by refusing support, he had humbled himself so they could be exalted, lifted out of their sin and idolatry. In chapter 11, verses 13 through 15, no longer speaking with veiled irony or defending himself, Paul bluntly and directly exposed the false apostles for what they were, emissaries of Satan. Not only was their claim to apostleship false, so also was their doctrine. As satanic purveyors of false teaching, They were under the curse of Galatians 1, 8 through 9. Paul's forceful language may seem harsh, but it expressed the godly jealousy he felt for the Corinthians. Paul was unwilling to sacrifice truth for the sake of unity. So why was Paul so emotional about the Corinthians' spiritual welfare? In 2 Corinthians 11, verse 2, Paul said, "I am jealous for you with godly jealousy." Paul was concerned to the point of jealousy, a zeal for their spiritual purity. Jealousy inspired by zeal for God's causes, and thus similar to God's own jealousy for his holy name and his people's loyalty. "I have betrothed you to one husband." As their spiritual father, Paul portrayed the Corinthians like a daughter whom he betrothed to Jesus Christ at their conversion, a chaste virgin to Christ. Having betrothed or pledged the Corinthians to Christ, Paul wanted them to be pure until the marriage day finally arrived. Paul compared the danger facing the Corinthian church to Eve's deception by Satan. He feared the Corinthians, like Eve, would fall prey to satanic lies and have their minds corrupted. The tragic result would be the abandonment of their simple devotion to Christ in favor of the sophisticated error of the false apostles. Paul's allusion to Genesis 3 implies that the false apostles were Satan's emissaries, a truth that he later made explicit. The false apostles came into the Corinthian church from the outside, just as Satan did into the garden. It is likely that they were Palestinian Jews who allegedly sought to bring the Corinthians under the sway of the Jerusalem church. They were, in a sense, Judaizers, seeking to impose Jewish customs on the Corinthians. Unlike the Judaizers who plagued the Galatian churches, however, the false apostles at Corinth apparently did not insist that the Corinthians be circumcised, nor did they practice a rigid legalism. In fact, they apparently encouraged licentiousness. Their fascination with rhetoric and oratory suggests they had been influenced by Greek culture and philosophy. Though their teaching may have differed from the Galatian Judaizers, it was just as deadly. Another Jesus, a different spirit, a different gospel. Paul's quarrel with the false apostles was not personal, but doctrinal. Those who adulterated the true gospel received Paul's strongest condemnation. Paul's fear that the Corinthians would embrace the damning lies of the false apostles prompted his jealous concern for them. We should be the same way today, because there's so much out there that is not true that's going through the churches. That concludes the September 19th Daily Bible Reading. Thanks for